This is Critical Nonsense, our high-lowbrow show about culture, science, and tech. This week, I asked Joey about contagious courage.
Woo! I can run the world from my mama's house. This is what a Joey sounds like. And this is what an executive producer and successful to launch Jess Vander sounds like.
Hi, this is Jess. That's funny.
I was like, well, Jess isn't a failure to launch. I was like, run the world from your mama's house. Anyways, I was, stuck. Was that Matthew McConaughey and the Sex and the City lady, failure to launch? I can't think of her name. It's multiple names. I keep
Sarah Jessica Parker.
I wanted to say Sarah Michelle Gellar, but I knew that was wrong. Anyways, Jessica.
We're sorry, SJP. How could we have scorned you like this?
Jessica.
Yeska.
I heard tell you have a question.
I do. I already know that because I asked you already whether you've read A.G. Sulzberger's "A Free People Need a Free Press" op-ed that came out this week, the week of recording.
I had
May
not.
13th. But A.G. Sulzberger is the publisher of the New York Times. He gave a talk at Notre Dame, and this op-ed was that talk. And it's sort of talking about the role of a free and independent press in a healthy democracy and his opinions about that. But something that stood out to me was this one couplet in the article where he says, "Fear is contagious, but courage is also contagious." And I couldn't stop thinking about this idea of how much we can, I don't know, how much agency we have, I guess, in the sort of in times that feel like we don't. And at the same time, there are so many forces that if we don't exercise that agency, can sort of grow and spread unfettered, because we're tired, because we're scared, because we don't know what to do. But I don't know. It just, I don't have many answers. I don't know where this might go, but I am just curious to pick your brain on how do we muster the courage?
I feel like my answer is potentially delusion. Insofar as I think in the moments where I need to convince myself to be brave, I think the ways in which I do that are by tricking myself or lying to myself in some capacity.
Yeah, totally. I don't know if other people do this, but like, to me, this is why music and difficult activities of exertion go well together. Or even especially a thing, maybe not just difficult, but a thing that is intimidating. Like if you are a skier and you know that feeling, or a snowboarder, and you know that feeling of like looking down the mountain and being like, gosh, this is really scary. But then you put on your pump up jams and you're like, yeah, totally. That's the soundtrack of someone badass going down this mountain. I totally can relate to that. But that feels easy enough to do, for maybe easy as a stretch, but even for your own sake. Like, that's not saying how you can muster enough to bear for other people.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were like, they had asked me about when I do like big keynote speeches, they're like, do you get nervous about those things? Do you get like really anxious about? And they were talking about it within the context of like encountering challenges, even when you know you can do them. And I was like, I don't know that I get nervous. There's like a elevated amplitude, like emotional amplitude, but I was like, I feel it more like pressure than fear. And I think some of that is probably me sort of like redirecting that energy. Instead of being like, I'm scared or I'm nervous, I'm just like, I have to do this thing. Like as a simple example of like, it's a thing you're getting on stage in front of, in some instances, a few thousand people. And, it's a lot of people all staring at you, right? Like there is some amount of adrenaline, right? Which elevates things and makes you, and so choosing to be like, well, I'm not nervous. I'm just, I want to do a good job. And so this is what it feels like when the stakes are high. It is like, I don't know if that is like purely cerebral, right? Like that there is no actual distinguishing, only in sort of the story that I tell myself about that feeling, which is kind of, but I had my dad really liked the Dune books and movies when I was young, so I'd watch like the Stephen Lynch movie and then the sci-fi series in like the late 90s. I'd read the book when I was a little bit older. But the reason I bring it up is that idea of like fear is the mind killer, like always really resonated with me for one reason or another. Like, I don't know, maybe it is you could tell me it's like a toxic thing in some capacity, but I'm just like, no, I get it. Like you stop thinking when you're afraid. And so I think I tried to like keep my faculties with me in those moments where I'm feeling something akin to that as best I can. It doesn't always work. I'm not like superhuman in any capacity. It's just like that's how I try to approach it.
No, it makes so much sense that reframe is how you are like, okay, if I just change my mindset or my outlook, then I can physically calm myself, then I can keep my focus on the task. It's actually interesting. It makes a lot of sense why there are so many idioms about this that are all like the self-talk that you should have. Actually, giving a talk in front of other people, right? What's the common adage is like, just like think of everyone in their underwear. It's like the enemy is weak. Like they are vulnerable. Like you are strong. As which is maybe just like my weird interpretation of what that means. But I think there's like a few others. I just asked ChatGPT to come up with a few, like fake it till you make it. That's like, okay, even if it's not real, let's just pretend it's real for now. Which goes to some of the imposter syndrome stuff that Barry Shafran talked about in his article of just like, well, maybe this is a strategy to to try to persist or um hold your head high, like be proud. Don't like don't sort of um go put your tail between your legs in this moment, like rise to the occasion, all these different words of like, I don't know, yeah, like the self-talk track that you need to like get your head in this game. That's the key.
Yeah, I there is like a thing I saw recently where someone was talking about this idea of like people say in relationships, like just be yourself, be authentic, all of these things. And someone was like, what they all really mean is just be calm. Uh like the underlying idea is like, how to be yourself, so just be yourself. Don't like, don't act weird, don't do like all the things that we would say around it. And all we really mean is just like be calm.
Yeah, don't let this don't let this stress turn you into a worse version of yourself.
But the idea of like of like fear contagion or bravery contagion is I think interesting, and it also gets at, you know, our susceptibility to groupthink and sort of the power of
Yes.
crowds, right? Like I think, you know, I was watching Andor yesterday. I started watching that
God.
series,
Wow.
but
Special
they're
thanks,
like,
Andor. Earliest special thanks we've ever had.
yeah, they're like there's a scene where they're like running through the jail and they're like, I think they say like, now is our time, or like now or never. It's like they're like, but they're all chanting it. And it is a mechanism where they are trying to like build collective bravery just by like
Yeah.
yelling this thing for all of us to like face our fear. Or, you know, in Ted Lasso, there was like that thing about power poses, but then um, the other coach is like being mean to himself in the mirror and like spitting as his way to like lock in to like get out of that fear loop. Like I think there are like lots of tricks that we can do, but that idea of it being contagious, I think it feels super true. Certainly, like I'm trying to think if I've experienced contagious bravery firsthand, but I've certainly experienced contagious fear firsthand.
I feel like contagious bravery is sometimes weirdly wrapped up in the day-to-day and peer pressure.
Yeah.
I feel like that's what that is. In a very like low stakes or maybe high stakes actually, but in more of an everyday context. Um but it's interesting that for both you it sort of sets a higher bar for intercepting that fear, or if you want to be the change you wish to see, like to be the starter point for courage. It's like
Mhm.
it requires an ability to be like, okay, it's gonna like I'm going to pause this, and having that level of awareness, agency, uh, is very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it is like fear often is a it, maybe always like I guess I haven't thought about this enough to say. Maybe you tell me is a cerebral act, right? It is the anticipation of something in the future, right? You are anticipating a bad thing that could come.
Well, that's anxiety. According to Inside Out 2, the difference between fear and anxiety, which are 2 different characters, and then I went down this rabbit hole. The difference between fear and anxiety, fear being, like, the thing that you can see that is an active and, often physical threat versus anxiety is anticipated threat. Please go on.
Mm. Okay. Well, I was gonna say like a lot of the stuff about bravery is trying just not to think, right? Um, right,
Right.
like if, to
Even if
use
it's
another
real.
Star Wars, another Star Wars example of like Mandalorian is like this is the way, is just
Yeah.
like that. This is what we do. We uh, embrace danger in this capacity, or we confront bad things in this capacity. I think that shows up in, you know, firefighters or other like high risk occupations where someone, you know, the military, right? Like Sic Semper Fidelis, like all these like ideas of we will enter this together because this is how we do it. You don't think about it, you just act. It is a bravery is often, you know, there are the phrases like bravery is not never being afraid. Bravery is what you do when you feel afraid, I guess, or however that exact turn of phrase works. But I think it is just, you know, like with public speaking or other things that I have to do for work that can give like anxiety or fear. I'm just like, well, I got to do it and it will eventually be over, right? Like if I'm have that those nerves before going up on stage, I'm like, it's going to be over in 20 minutes. Like, no matter what, this is done in 20 minutes. And that is just like, all right, you got to go through it.
Yeah. Well, and it's I think as refrigerator magnet as that saying is, I think that it also speaks to the other side of not just pushing through, waiting out, toughing it out, but maybe even stoking action that you proactively you seek out maybe something that is even scarier, and that there's sort of like a chasing aspect to that, so that it isn't always reactive, that you can find opportunities to be more scared and do something about it. It's interesting that all of these ultimately come like that self-talk track that we find ourselves in. We typically are pulling, it seems like, on two general buckets of things. It's like either you're pulling on something that affirms your sense of self, of like, I am someone who does this, or you're pulling on a virtue that you believe in, of like, this is like the Mandalorian example of like, this is the way, if I want it's like to embody this thing that I value, that is worth it has to be the value exchange of bravery, of courage, right?
Yeah, and that maybe is also identity, is group identity, right? Like membership in this group, right? Six Emperor Fidelis is like, thus always faithful, I think. But it is, the Marines like motto, but it is like, to be a Marine, there are like certain expectations, and often like being a Marine, because of the hardship you go through in basic training and all of like the structure of your life, then becomes a component of one's identity. And so there is like, you are this, and it becomes logic instead of emotion. Like, I am this, therefore I do this, right? Like the group identity can be insulating in moments that require bravery in some capacity, both in an affirmation type of sense, like, I'm a Marine and I'm brave because I'm a Marine, or like, I work at this company and we are good at what we do, so therefore I am good at what I do because I work at that. Like that group association can like pull you into more logic structure in order to do a thing that is hard or challenging or fear-inducing.
True.
Are you brave?
I'm gonna be. Can I rap?
Yeah.
I feel like it is the most sci-fi thing that the antidote to the contagion is in our own blood. If only we can harness it.
I contain the antidote.
I am the antidote. I haven't. No spoilers.
We are both the disease and the cure.
Oh, that's it. Okay, I'm sorry, AG. Didn't mean to do this to you.
Critical Nonsense is a Sylvain production.
Brought to you by Stronger Than Yesterday, a new vitamin from Christina Aguilera's new business venture.
As always, we'd like to thank our executive producer and genie in a bottle, Jess Vander.
Sure thing. And thank you to our sound engineer and Mando, Alex Condell.
We'd like to thank our programming coordinator and Sith Lord, Les Jacobs.
And our pump up speech and production crew, Sarah Gilbert, Nora Mestrich, Christy Jensen, Amanda Medina, and Amy Waters.
And as always, thanks, Ellen.
Thanks.
Special thanks, I guess, George Lucas.
Special thanks to the Rogue One team that then became the creative team for Andor to make like maybe the best Star Wars content that there is. I don't know. Putting it out there. That's the take. That's the thought.
It's a hot
Maybe
take.
It's not even a hot take. Is it hot? I don't know.
I haven't seen Rogue One, but I thought he was in Rogue One, and so I'm gonna be chronologically accurate, it seems, in that I will watch season 1 and 2 and then watch Rogue One.
Wow.
Like,
many say that Rogue One is the best Star Wars movie. Some might say. Some might argue. So, and
some are saying.
Yeah, and in some ways, it's like the ultimate, no spoilers, but the ultimate season finale to Andor.
Wow.
I don't know, but wow, is it good? Yeah, and also thanks to a free and independent press sidebar. That's cool. We like that. That's good. That's good for us.
Yeah, thanks freedom and democracy. We are fans.
We big fans. Big.
Yeah.
Okay, that's all.
Well, love you, mean it. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.